right now, we're really fired up to get to the Rude Guest Hotline. Talk to our friend, Mr. Joe Beninati, Caps play-by-play voice. Joe B, how are you, man? Happy St. Patty's.
If it's not rude, it's not right.
There you go. There you go.
Damn right, Joe. How you've been on the road, man? How was that West Coast trip for you?
That wasn't that rude. No, the West Coast trip was good. You know what was rude though? Honestly, the weather. You look forward to good weather in California, and especially in March if it's been a little bit frigid back here. And honestly, guys, it rained, I want to say 5 of the 6 days that we were out there.
Wow.
And so that was a bit rude, but all in all, the team played well. Took 2 of 3. Alex got a goal to come home with. The points keep rising for this team. They're in a great place in the Metro and in the Eastern Conference. So all in all, a good trip.
A quick aside here, Joe. When you go on a week-long Cali trip like that, will you bring your golf clubs, or is that just not done on a hockey trip?
JP, honestly, in 30 years of hockey in the NHL and even before that in the American Hockey League, I have never brought my sticks on a trip.
Wow. Okay.
Ever.
So
yeah, we don't either.
Season's over.
I know it's a baseball thing. I know the guys bring it up quite a bit. You know, if you're going to go and be in Anaheim for 3 or 4 days, and I know the baseball pitchers are all single-digit handicaps or plus handicaps.
Yeah.
But no, I've never brought my clubs. It's not the thing.
Brian and I don't bring our clubs either. We just rent them. It's a lot easier.
Boy.
No, I bring mine. I have special grips. I don't like those little skinny grips.
All right, so let's start with the chase. Got our friend Joe Beninati on the line. Look, Ovi's now 8 goals away. Obviously, it's a national story. It's something my kids are really excited by. Everybody's really excited by it. You think? How does Ovi feel about it?
I think he's excited because when he scores, the team tends to win. And that's been basically the mantra for the coaching staff and for this entire roster. You know, it's like almost one hand washes the other. When they play well, Alex tends to score. When Alex tends to score, they tend to win. So one hand washes the other there. I think when I see Alex from day to day, I know he wants to get this done. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily like, I've had enough of this. I want to put it past me. I'm bored. He's not bored by it in any stretch, but it can be overwhelming in that every new city we go to, everybody, that's the first thing you want to talk about. And it's understandable. It's an all-time record. It is phenomenal history, what we're seeing here. And this is a guy who normally when he gets close to individual milestones, he tends to break those doors down very quickly. And all of a sudden he's got a dozen goals in his last 17 games, and he's 7 from tying, 8 from breaking. You've got 15 games left. You do the math. It's within reach.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that he would prefer to slam through and break through that wall and climb the hill this year.
I think, and the thing of it, he's so focused on what's happening at the moment that I don't think people even understand that he don't give himself a chance to start looking forward. You know what I mean?
Well, absolutely, BMitch. It's a day-to-day thing. And again, I keep coming back to the sayings and the teachings and the mantra that Spencer Carberry has given this team every step of this season as they were exploding in the first 2 months, as they've been continuing to climb and look for the overall division championship, the Eastern Conference, the President's Trophy, the record for Alex. He keeps coming back to stay in the moment.
Yeah.
Stay in the moment. He keeps hammering that home to the guys. Well, stay in the moment is focus upon Detroit, a team that's really going to come in desperate to play good hockey tomorrow, since they're on the bubble right now with regard to the wild card. Stay in the moment. Focus on trying to beat them, and things will take care of themselves.
So, Joe B, it's interesting you talk about that. They've got the Red Wings tomorrow night at Capital One Arena. I imagine, are all these games kind of starting to sell out now, or even just to watch Ovi at the maybe they were sold out anyway, but I feel like these ticket prices are really going to start jumping as more and more folks want to be there for that historic moment.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I have friends telling me that, wow, the ticket prices are jumping and the buildings are full. The buildings are very much, if not at capacity, wherever we go, whether assuredly in D.C., but very much so on the road. And what I do notice even more and more, it's not that Caps fans don't travel well, but Caps fans have been traveling extremely well in the last month or so. It's not hard to get Caps fans to want to go to the games in California, but they tend to travel really well in places like Denver. I know Vegas is a hot spot all the way around, but you'll see more and more Caps fans, especially on these farther west trips than we've seen. And I think a lot of hockey fans in general are throwing on Capitals colors, and more often than not, that has a number 8 on the back of it because of what he's achieving and what he's close to accomplishing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Talking with Joe Beninati here on the Rude Guest Hotline. You can give Joe a follow at Joe B PXP. Make sure you're watching him every night on Monumental Sports Network. So Joe, I'm looking at the standings and I'm starting to watch this because we're gonna be on the road for these playoff games and all this stuff. If the season ended today, the Caps would play the Rangers, I believe.
Absolutely right.
But there's so much more hockey to play, and that bottom of the wild card is so jumbled up. But I can't help but notice a couple of these win streaks. The Hurricanes have won 7 in a row. Ottawa's won 6 in a row. I mean, I feel like hockey is so important how hot you are coming into the playoffs. How do you see kind of where the East is at right now?
Well, you're talking about that wild card bubble. You've got 5 teams separated by 4 points.
Damn.
From the Rangers to the Canadiens to the Blue Jackets to the Red Wings to the Islanders. So nothing is done there. And it sure looks like Washington, you would expect, unless there was a really precipitous fall from grace there, that the Capitals appear to be the number 1 seed in the East, and they would play that second wild card. So as of right now, that would be, as of today, the New York Rangers. Yes, it's all about being hot at the right moment. JP, I agree with you. There are some things, I think that any way you look at it, I could find an uncomfortable matchup in any of those 5 or 6 teams that we just itemized. As far as a first round, yes, the Caps would definitely be the prohibitive favorite against a Rangers team, but facing Igor Shesterkin in a best of 7, the Rangers' outstanding goalie, would make things a little uncomfortable. That's okay. You're gonna need to get over some hurdles if you're gonna go where you want to go. If you're gonna want to win it all, it's not gonna be smooth and 4 straight sweeps. It's just not likely to ever happen like that. So I could find difficulties in any first round, second round matchup. You mentioned Carolina. I am always of the opinion that Rod Brindamore's team is an extremely difficult out. They play the game ferociously. They have tremendous team speed. Their forecheck is a real pain in the butt. They would be uncomfortable in that second round were you to get through the first. They're always tough matchups all the way through. And then if you got to the third round, what's waiting for you from the other side? I think a lot of people would sit there and tell you that the 3 teams that possibly come out of the Atlantic, whether they be Toronto, Florida, Tampa, would all present an interesting matchup for whomever comes into that conference final. I sure think most people are starting to believe in Washington now as, hey, you know what? This team really looks like a Final Four kind of team, a championship round 3 conference final type team. I sure hope that's the case. And I hope that they'll be battle tested along the way. They've found a way to do things throughout the season, whether it was early in the year, guys, when they would just beat your brains in with offense. In the last month or so, they found a way to rally back and win games, so many of them in the third period. They'll be playing, the key thing is to be playing the right way and get hot at the right time once April starts to roll around.
Yeah, I think it's more like the other teams play well, but this team have to worry about what it's doing, not what somebody else is doing.
Sure. BMitch, all the coaches always say it's not about the opponent, it's about us.
Yeah.
Every coach in every sport, regardless, across the board, well, are you worried about what they're going to be? No, I worry about what we do.
True.
And if the Washington Capitals play the way they've been playing for the first 5 months of the season, they'll be in really good shape. And that's got to be at the top of the to-do list for the coaches, the captains, the leadership group of this club that's been so good. They've really played beautifully over the course of 67 games, and I don't expect that to change.
It's funny. One of my favorite moments in the Commanders in that building, in that locker room, was earlier this year before they were going to play Detroit in the divisional round, and we were talking to Quan Martin, and he said something about facing the Lions in Detroit. He's like, "Yeah, man, they're really good, but we're good too." Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be driven from inside your own dressing room, locker room, clubhouse. And to that point, Joe, the two best teams in hockey, I kind of love how removed these are, but it's Washington and it's Winnipeg. And if you look, remember last year that the Caps got into the playoffs with a negative goal differential, and that was a big storyline. That ain't the case this year. They're plus 69 in goal differential. The only team with a better goal differential than them is Winnipeg at plus 81, which is crazy. The Caps right now have 96 points on the season. The Jets have 98. Like, this thing for the President's Trophy is going to come down to the wire. And there's a game next week, Washington at Winnipeg. How'd you start? Like, that thing should be pretty supercharged, right?
Absolutely. Winnipeg's fabulous. Again, team speed, 5-man concepts, all the offense that they can throw at you. Perhaps the game's best goalie. If you break it down, I think Connor Hellebuck is likely to win his third Vezina in his career. Winnipeg has had playoff issues. They've had demons swirling around them, but there's no questioning what they've done this regular season. The two teams met a few weeks ago in D.C. Winnipeg won in overtime. And the thing I will tell you, JP and BMitch, about the Jets and their home arena, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Salt Lake City might be smaller by total capacity because it's not necessarily built for hockey. But the Winnipeg rink, I don't know, maybe seats 15,000. It sounds like 150,000 in there. It's really loud. The crowd is right on top of you. So yes, if that's the marquee matchup coming up in Winnipeg in a week or so's time, that's going to be amazing theater to watch. Those two teams have been by far heads and shoulders the best in their respective conferences. No disrespect to Dallas and Colorado, two teams that got a whole lot better around the trade deadline. But it's been Washington and Winnipeg battling for that President's Trophy for quite a while.
Well, Joe, just so you know, the official stance of the BMitch and Finlay radio program is we've never heard anything nice about Winnipeg, ever. Now, a lot of that is we just have never heard anything about Winnipeg, but we've never heard anything nice, and we have nothing nice to say about them. And honestly, I can't wait for that game. So it's kind of crazy just from a straight scheduling thing. The Caps just had this big Cali trip. Now they're back. And then there's one more big road trip, right? It's Winnipeg and then Minnesota within a week. And then everything, there's some more roadies, but everything's pretty close, like travel-wise. Things kind of settle down into the playoffs, right?
Yeah, that was the stretch that we just concluded in California. Those were the last games against the Pacific Division for the Caps this season. You mentioned Minnesota and Winnipeg, one more whack of frosty cold and windy weather. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the road trips are all within short distances with plenty of time to spare in terms of day on, day off, days of rest. I know down the stretch, the Caps do finish with their last two on the road. I want to say it's another trip to Long Island, and they finish up in Pittsburgh to end the regular season. But from a schedule standpoint, knock on wood, it seems very, very manageable. That Minnesota-Winnipeg trip will be difficult. Those two teams are very, very good. Minnesota's been especially good on the road like the Caps, and Winnipeg, as we mentioned, they've just been all around league beaters this season. Their style of play, their size, it's funny. We go from rink to rink. The Caps are such a big team, height and weight wise. They did not look overwhelmingly bigger than the Jets. So again, if you're built that way, most general managers will say, those bigger, stronger, heavier teams are tougher to play against over the course of 7-game series. There's a reason why you do it that way. And I think both of them, Winnipeg and Washington, both have a lot of things in common.
It seems like it. Well, we will be watching that game.
All of them.
Everybody, make sure you give Joe B a follow at Joe B PXP. Watch the Caps games. Just doing a great job. And
Joe, what special bottle you have for the night that the record is broken?
Ooh.
Nice, great question, BMitch. Great question. Love it. I don't think there aren't very many Russian Cabernets that I have downstairs in the cellar. I wish I could bring a Russian Syrah up for that one, but we'll have to do something. We'll have to do something
I got an
special.
idea, Joe.
Go for it.
What about Russian River Valley?
See, now we're going great Pinot. I love it.
I'm trying to think outside the box.
You just did. You nailed it. You just nailed it. So this guy's almost 40 years old. Let's see. We got to try. Maybe we could do something by special vintage. I like it, BMitch. You've given me a homework project to do.
All right. I know you love your wine, man.
I love that. Joe, last thing. Obviously, you are synonymous with Capitals hockey. And we had Alan on, I don't know, last week, 2 weeks ago, and everybody's praying for Locker. I'm seeing the updates on Instagram and stuff. He's obviously improving. But I do want you to know that you and Alan have been great. And obviously that's a big change, but we're still enjoying it. And I'm praying like hell that Ovi breaks it on a Monumental game.
Yeah, we all are. And obviously with regard to Craig, everything that matters with Craig is just about getting back to full health. It's all about his recovery. And I've texted with him recently, and would you believe this son of a gun's telling me he's already back, starting to pedal away on the Peloton?
I believe honestly.
That must be a good sign from the doctors and his care team that they've given him the green light to do that.
Yeah,
he wants desperately to be back for the time that Alex does break the record. In the meantime, Alan's done a great job. We threw him into the deep end of the pool here, and he's done incredibly well. His timing gets better and better with each telecast that we work on. And I know that they're both rooting for each other. Alan is hopeful that, yes, we do have that live game on Monumental. Yes, that Locker is well enough to be in the booth, 100% with all safety and everything with regard to his health. At the same time, the great people at Monumental and the Caps and the league have come up with a way for us to be involved for archive purposes. If it falls on one of those 4 remaining national exclusives, we'll be there. We'll be calling it basically into a tape machine, and we'll have the ability to play it back shortly thereafter in social media platforms, play it back as a Capitals classic broadcast, if you will, on Monumental. We won't interfere, obviously, with the exclusivity of the national rights holders, but all we can do is thank them for allowing us to be there and thank the Caps and the league for coming to that agreement. It would be wonderful. Best case, guys, he does it at a home game, a live game on Monumental where the national partners are working side by side with us. Everybody wins. That would be perfect. But you never know. It's hard to nail down. I had an interview with Cal Ripken, and when Cal was breaking 21-31, he could point to that date and say, there it is. Alex can't do the same.
Yeah. Well, JP and I like to believe that we kind of threw it out there and somebody heard us and ran with it.
We spoke it into existence to keep Joe B and Locker involved in some capacity.
We'll have a little taste of it. Like I said, if it's not on that Monumental night where it's live, we'll have a little taste of it, and that's a great fallback position, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. Joe, thank you, man.
Hi, Joe. Appreciate
your time.
Guys, my pleasure. Let's do it again soon.
All right, brother.
We will.
Peace.
We will. That is Joe Beninati. You can give him a follow at Joe B PXP. Simply fantastic at what he does, and what a fun year it's been for the Caps.
It has been.
You get this Ovi chase right into the playoffs. It's going to be incredible.